Janome.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my studio. Cheeto and I are here in the studio to welcome you to another Facebook Live event. We're in the Summertime Skill Builders series, and today is all about curved piecing. Mr. Kim is here too. Say hi, Mr. Kim.
Hi, everybody.
And we just want to make you feel welcome today in the studio because we've got a lot of fun things to share. And really, I'm excited to share with you my tips and techniques for successful curved piecing. And I think that you're going to find some things that are really going to help you. I know some of you may have tried curved piecing in the past and maybe got frustrated with the results, or maybe you've just been a little too intimidated to try it before now. But hopefully today you will feel like you have the confidence and the new tips and skills needed to give it a go. Now, I want to share a lot with you, but the most important thing is to get some scrap fabrics or sample fabrics ready to go, because curve piecing, it takes a little bit of practice. No matter what you do, you gotta practice. So I don't recommend you using your favorite fabrics at first. I recommend you trying it with some scrap fabrics or some fabrics for a charity quilt, and I think you're going to be glad that you did. And I've been working on quite a few different samples here, because I've just been trying some different things. Here I've got one of the Drunkard's Path blocks done, and of course I tried some clamshells, and that was fun. And then I tried a new to me, I had a ruler for I think it's called a hexagon swirl. I tried that. That was really fun, like that. And my favorite curved piecing is the apple core. I really like doing these. So I've been here with a lot of different fun fabrics that I cut up, and I've been testing them out and trying different techniques, and wanted to make sure that I shared all of my best tips with you. So let's talk first real quickly about how you would get your shapes. Now, there's lots of things that you can print from the internet, and when you go to your local Janome dealer or your local quilt shop, my guess is they're going to have some sort of curved templates for you to try that are hanging on their wall. I've got, this one was that hexagon swirl, and this one is like a clamshell, and you can certainly use these with rotary cutting. So that's a good way to get your shapes with a rotary cutter. Or if you happen to have the AccuQuilt Go Cutter, I really like using the dies. They make it really fast, accurate, and easy. I used that Drunkard's Path die to cut some of those shapes out. And they also have a really nice clamshell design. And of course, my favorite, the apple core. And one of the things I really like that makes it easy about using these die cutters and cutting these shapes is they have these little notches, and it's very easy to match up the notches when you're doing your piecing. So that is something to consider. But even if you're using shapes that you cut with your acrylic template or your ruler, I'm going to show you how to match up those shapes with the center markings as well. So let's move over to the machine, and I'm going to show you how to set up your machine to get really great results. Now let's talk about how to set up your machine, because really a lot of the success that happens under the needle really has to do with the settings on your machine, and I've got some great tips to share with you. You can actually put your pieces together and do your curved piecing with your A foot or even your O presser foot, but we are going to want to go in and adjust it for a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I have my 9mm throat plate on, and so we would go in here and select our decorative stitches and go to the quilt menu and select the 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's stitch number 2 on my Continental M7. But a lot of you have this stitch, it just might be in a different place. We're going to want to make sure to use a 2.4 stitch length, and it could be 2.5. And you can play around with your different settings. I'm going to go ahead and actually snap on my O foot this time, but you absolutely could use your A foot if you want. All right, I've got my O foot on. Now let's talk about some more settings here. If you're using thicker fabrics, you can actually go into the flyout menu here and reduce the presser foot pressure. And you can take it from auto down to maybe -2 or -3, because we need the fabrics to not be too tight between the presser foot and the feed dogs. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at auto because I'm just using quilter's weight cotton. So, but I wanted you to know that that is an option if you're feeling like when you're trying to turn, you're trying to make your turns, it's feeling a little too tight and the feed dogs are gripping a little too much, you can change that. Here's something else that I think is a game changer. Let's talk about that hover feature or the automatic presser foot lifter. When it's engaged, your little icon will change colors. Mine turns to yellow and it shows the presser foot up and the needle down. Now this is great because it means that you can be stitching, and every time you take your foot off the foot pedal, the presser foot comes up. But on many machines, many Janome machines, you can change the height of the lifting, and I want to show you how to do that because that is an amazing thing. We can go in here into our settings, and we're going to actually go to the second tab over, which is the sewing settings, and we're going to go to page 3. Let's go this way, and we're going to go to page 3, and it says foot height for pivoting. Now the default here is actually 3 millimeters, all right, 3 millimeters, 3.0. But I'm going to say if your machine allows you to change the height for pivoting, I want you to reduce it down to 1.0 millimeters. That means, and then we'll say, okay, that means that when the presser foot lifts, it's only going to come up just a tiny little bit, just enough to allow you to make small adjustments for when we're going around those curves. It makes all the world of difference. Now, if you don't have this feature, but you have the knee lift, that's another great way to control lifting up that presser foot. So pull out your knee lift. If you have it, you might find that that just works really well for you. And that's another great thing to have to help make this curved piecing easier. So now let's talk about our shapes. If you're a beginner at this, you're going to want to choose shapes that have a very gentle curve, very gentle arc. The more severe they are, the harder it is. So I suggest something like the shapes that I've shown you. And here, when we line these up, look how pretty they lay next to each other, right? And we can see that we have these little notches. That's what we're going to be matching up, are those notches. When you flip this right sides together, now you can really see the difference. We have to make this arc fit into that arc, right? So we're going to have to use some pins, and that's really critical. And what I want to talk about here are pins. First of all, when you take a pin to pin this, you're only going to want to take the smallest little bite into the fabric. You want to just keep it really close to the edge, about a 1/4 inch away. What I don't recommend doing is taking a big chunk like that. That is it's pinned too big and chunky. You won't have the flexibility to move the fabric. So just pin it so that it's just the smallest little bite into the fabric. And then what you want to do is go match up each end of the seam and put another pin right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to pin that one like that, and we're going to match up the other end and put a pin there and make sure that we do that. And it's up to you at this point how many pins you use to match up the seam. I've got another one already pinned here. I sort of like anywhere between 5 and 7 pins on a shape like this. I don't want too many because pins can distort, but they also need to hold these shapes together. Here's another one of those hexy swirls, and I went ahead and pinned this one, and you can see how I've got them all lined up here. Again, we've got these curved shapes that need to fit together. Now, because I cut these two shapes with a rotary cutter and my acrylic template, I need to find where the centers are. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold these shapes in half along the edge that is going to be seamed, and we're going to notch it just by putting a little finger press there. Maybe use your thumbnail to make a little finger press. And the same here, we need to line these ends up and finger press, put a finger press there. And then we're going to make sure that when we put these right sides together, we're literally putting a pin in right at the center point. Take a small bite with your pin and go ahead and line up these edges. Put another pin in right there. Again, a small bite with your pin. Line up these edges. There we go. Let's make sure we get both pieces of the fabric. Go ahead and keep pinning here. You can see I've already done one with those same shapes. Get your pins in, and then we need to talk about the actual pins. I've got a great tip for you about the pins. All right, let's talk about actual pins. And I forgot to mention that if you have those magic clips, I've actually tried using magic clips for this method. It can be done. I think they're a little heavy and a little chunky and don't hold the fabrics quite as securely as the pins do. If this is all you have handy, by all means use them. But if you have the choice between the clips and the pins, I think you're going to have better success with pins for this technique than the clips. But do you know that there's a difference in the flathead flower pins out there on the market today? It's true. Most of them, if you buy them, have a really chunky shank or the metal part of the pin. And actually, if you see a pin package and it's not marked, it's going to be 0.55 millimeters. I really like these pins. These are flathead flower pins, and if you look right here, I'll bet if you've seen this package, you didn't even notice these little numbers here. Do you see where it says 0.45 millimeters? That means that the shank of the pin is very, very skinny, and it works really well for this technique because it doesn't distort the fabric so much. The fatter and chunkier the shank of the pins, the more you're going to see distortion in fine piecing like this. So next time you're at your Janome dealer, ask them to order some of these in or see if they have them in stock. But this is a good thing to pick up when you can, and make sure you check for the size of the pin shank, and it's good. It should be right on the package. If it's not, it's typically the fatter or chunkier one. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm always trying to share all these little tips and hints I can with you so that you get really great results. So now that I have used those flathead flower pins to pin my shapes, we have the machine set up. It's time to sew. So what we're going to do is make sure the speed on your machine is turned down low. This is not something you can do running to the races. It is not fast chain piecing. This is something you need to do to take time and have control over your seams. So I'm going to put this piece under the presser foot, and I'm going to lower the presser foot down. And this is all about slow and steady wins the race. And when I get close to that first pin, I'm going to come up here and slide it out. Did you see how the presser foot lifted only just a little bit? That's because we have the automatic presser foot lifter engaged, and we're going to go in here and we're just going to go just ever so slowly. And we're going to just keep smoothing our fabric underneath, feeling with your fingers to make sure there are no tucks or puckers. And we'll get a little closer there. All right, make sure you keep feeling underneath to make sure there are no tucks. Keep going. As you get to the next pin, pull it out. Here we go. And go nice and slow. Slow and steady wins the race every time. And you're going to see that we have a beautiful seam. Look at that. That's beautiful, nice 1/4 inch seam there. And when we fold it over and we get ready to press, we have a beautiful, beautiful curved seam. Now I have one already pressed for you that you can see. Look how beautiful that is. It's nice and flat. We've eased that in there and it's just perfect. So you're going to want to press it. When you do, they do kind of want to go to one side or the other, just kind of follow the way that it wants to lay and get it pressed, and you'll see how beautiful that is. So now that we've done this with the regular 9mm throat plate and your O foot or your A foot, I'm going to show you the HP foot and plate method. If your machine, which is a 15,000, your 9450, your M7, your CM17, if you have the HP foot and plate, it's just wonderful for curved piecing. So let's go ahead and switch it out here. Lock your machine. I love this feature of being able to change this throat plate so easily. You just lock it, push the icon, and it snaps the next throat plate right in there. This is the HP throat plate, and it literally moves the whole carriage to the left. So we're just going to be using the left feed dogs only. Let me show you. I'm going to remove the ankle here with the O foot, and we're going to pop on the HP foot. And you can certainly use the HP 2 foot, the AccuFeed Flex foot. But we've got the HP foot on now, and can you see that we're only lined up over the left feed dogs? This makes curved piecing a breeze. You're going to love it. If you have this feature on your machine, if you have these this throat plate and foot, you're going to want to use it. Make sure that you click out of the lock and it takes you to the HP menu here, the utility menu, and we're going to use this unit right here. We're going to line it up under the HP foot and plate, and we're going to go ahead and stitch. Same thing, I've kept the speed turned way down because we want the control, and you want to stop just before you get to each of those pins. So this is a good time once you get into this to listen to a book on tape or some music that you enjoy, because it's very soothing. I find curved piecing to be exceedingly soothing. There we go. Make sure you kind of line it up here at the edge. You can ease it a little bit. And we are almost at the end of this seam. Wait till you see, it's going to be beautiful. Here we are. Cut your threads, move your pins out of the way, and look at this. Oh my goodness, when this is pressed, that is a seam of beauty. So you're going to want to have some fun practicing with this. There's so much you can do with curved piecing. This is going to open up a whole new repertoire of blocks in your block arsenal when you're quilting. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. So I'll be checking on the comments, and if you have questions, please post them and we'll try to get those answered for you. But more than anything, I want you to have the confidence to jump in and try this fun technique. I hope you're enjoying these Janome summertime skill builders. I've had fun popping in here with you, and I can't wait to see you next month for another Facebook Live. Until then, thank you for joining me today in the studio. Mr. Kim, want to say goodbye?
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for popping in with me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.